U.S. History B, Unit 3, the Cold War, Day 2, Cold War 1. So we're going to spend 2 days on Chapter 28, Section 2. Maybe 3, but probably 2. We'll see. Today's essential question: what is meant by Cold War? The main idea is Cold War 1. There are 4 subtopics today instead of 3. The subtopics are defined, Big 3 falls apart, devastation, and end of U.S. isolation. All right. Cold War defined. It was called the Cold War because the United States and the Soviet Union, or Russia, the Soviet Union was Russia and all the republics and territories that it dominated. It was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The Cold War was called the Cold War because we never actually fought Russia directly. We never actually fought the USSR directly. Instead, we fought each other through spies. We fought each other through money, through politics, and through proxy wars. Proxy wars are us versus them, but in another country by proxy. By proxy means someone else does it for us. So let's say that you were going to vote by proxy. That would mean that you had given someone else the authority to vote for you. So I can't go to my union meeting and vote myself, so I give Mr. Macbeth my proxy vote. He essentially shows up with 2 votes. So you do it through someone else. Examples of proxy wars: the Vietnam War was American capitalists versus Vietnamese communists that were supplied by the Russians, but the Russians didn't fight directly. Actually, a few of them did. They flew jets, but it was secret. A proxy war on the Russian side was when they invaded Afghanistan and we supplied the Mujahideen, a lot of whom would eventually become the Taliban. We supplied them against the Russians. So they fought the Russians with American weapons. When we fought Vietnamese communists, we fought Vietnamese who were using Russian weapons and Chinese communist weapons, for example. So what I want you to write down for defined is there was no actual shooting. We fought through spies, money, politics, and proxy wars. And I want you to write one more thing too. The reason why we did not fight directly was because of nuclear weapons. If we had actually fought a conventional war, that is tanks and soldiers and airplanes trying to kill each other, and one side was doing very badly, they would have just used nuclear weapons to end the war, and that would have ended life on planet Earth. Some estimates say 7 to 10 times over. So that's why we didn't fight directly, because of nuclear weapons. The next subtopic is the Big 3 falls apart. So what I want you to write here is capitalism versus communism. And I want you to remember that the Big 3 were Great Britain, Russia, and the United States. We were the Big 3 powers on the Allied side during World War II. It fell apart because Britain and the United States were capitalist and Russia was communist. And part of the doctrine of communism is that workers will violently overthrow the rich. And Russia was promoting this. And they also had an authoritarian dictator named Joseph Stalin who just, for example, Poland generally didn't want to be communist, but when Stalin invaded Poland and drove the Germans out of it, he just kept it. Right? He didn't ask the Poles. He actually killed 50,000 free Polish soldiers who had fought with us to take their country back. He just killed them. So the U.S. saw communism as extremely aggressive and authoritarian, and Stalin was terrified that we were going to invade him like Hitler invaded him. So you get this tension that turns into the Cold War. But what I want you to write down for Big 3 falls apart is capitalism versus communism. Devastation. Europe and Asia were absolutely trashed. Now, after World War II, American economists were predicting that we would go right back to the Great Depression because everybody would lose their war jobs. But that didn't happen because we were the only place that had factories. So the whole world bought American stuff for about 15 years until their factories came online. So America experienced an economic boom after World War II. So what I want you to write down is Europe and Asia are destroyed, USA economic boom, because everybody's buying American stuff. Finally, the end of U.S. isolation. After World War II, France and Britain, who were the 2 big global powers besides Germany, were not global powers anymore. They were devastated. So the 2 big global powers are now the United States and the Soviet Union. You are accustomed to the United States getting involved in everything across the world and people looking to the United States for leadership. American soldiers and Marines and air personnel are fighting wars all over the place, it seems, all the time. And a lot of people criticize this as America being the world's police. I myself am concerned with that. But who else is going to do it? If the U.S. perceives that there is this, what Ronald Reagan called an evil empire, but you could say an expansionist Soviet state that wants something that America opposes, that is control and communism versus capitalism and what we would say liberty or freedom. Who's going to oppose that but the United States? So up until this point, America had tried to stay out of world politics. Remember how opposed people were to World War I and World War II. But now Americans generally just accept that America is now one of the two superpowers and America is all over global politics. So for end of U.S. isolation, I want you to write the USA is now one of two superpowers. For your output today, I want you to draw a T-chart on your output side, and I've given you an example of this. And I'm linking you to a video that I think gives a very even treatment of the differences between communism and capitalism. And I want you to write down 3 things about capitalism and 3 things about communism, and I want them to be opposed. So I'll give you a silly example because I don't want to do your work for you. But let's say that capitalism likes chocolate ice cream and communism likes vanilla ice cream. Then you write capitalism likes chocolate ice cream and communism likes vanilla ice cream. So how are they different? And I want 3 bullet points on each side, total of 6 bullet points. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 3.